It's August 26th, 1883. The Dutch East Indies, in Indonesia. A volcanic island called Krakatoa is about to experience a catastrophic eruption. The explosion is going to be so loud that people standing 40 miles away will go deaf. It's going to be so loud that it will be heard 3,000 miles away in the island of Mauritius.
It's going to be the loudest sound ever recorded in human history. The explosion is going to create a tsunami wave so massive that it will be over 100 feet tall. The wave will destroy entire cities. Over 36,000 people will die, most of them from the tsunami, not the explosion itself. And within weeks, the dust from
the eruption will circle the entire Earth. The sun will be darkened across the entire globe. The average temperature of the Earth will drop by several degrees, all because of a single volcanic eruption. This is the story of Krakatoa, the volcano that changed the world. Before the eruption, Krakatoa was a known volcanic island in the Sunda Strait between
Java and Sumatra. The island was not heavily populated. There were some small settlements, but nothing major. Ships would pass by it regularly. The Dutch colonial government was aware of the island, but it wasn't considered a major threat. Volcanologists didn't really exist yet in 1883. People didn't fully understand volcanic processes. They didn't understand how dangerous a volcano
could be. In the months leading up to August 1883, there were warning signs. The volcano had been rumbling. There had been minor earthquakes. There had been small explosions. Scientists in Java noticed these things. They sent reports to the Dutch colonial government. Some people who lived on the island evacuated because they were nervous about the volcano. But the warnings weren't taken as seriously as they should have been. In late May of 1883, Krakatoa had a significant eruption. Ash was thrown miles into the air. The eruption column reached 20,000 feet. Ships in the Sunda Strait reported seeing enormous columns of ash and hearing loud explosions. But this eruption didn't destroy the island. The volcano seemed to have vented some pressure and calmed down. People thought the danger had passed. They didn't realize they had just witnessed a warning sign of something far more catastrophic coming. Throughout the summer of 1883, the volcano continued to rumble. There were constant small earthquakes. There were constant small explosions. People living on nearby islands heard the noise.
They felt the tremors, but life continued. It was the dry season. Ships continued to sail through the Sunda Strait. People went about their business. On August 26th, at around 5:30 in the morning, Krakatoa exploded. The explosion was so powerful that it literally tore the island apart. The island had been roughly 3 miles long and 2 miles
wide. About 2/3 of the island was destroyed in the explosion. The explosion column shot up into the atmosphere at an unimaginable speed. Scientists estimate it reached 80,000 feet in elevation. The explosion column was so hot that it created its own weather system. It created lightning. It created wind speeds that were hurricane force. The sound of
explosion was heard across an enormous distance. In Jakarta, which was 90 miles away, people heard an enormous boom. In Rodriguez Island, which was 3,000 miles away, people heard the explosion. It was the loudest sound that had ever been recorded in human history. Nothing before it came close. The explosion was so loud that some people thought it was cannon fire or military action. Some people thought that cities were being attacked by artillery. The explosion created a pressure wave that moved outward in all directions at the speed of sound. The pressure wave traveled completely around the Earth. It was recorded by barometers around the world. The pressure wave passed over Europe, over Africa, over the entire planet. It created atmospheric effects that scientists recorded around the world. But the most destructive force from the eruption was not the explosion itself.
It was the tsunami. When the island exploded and collapsed into the ocean, it displaced an enormous amount of water. A tsunami wave was generated. The wave was enormous. Different sources give different estimates, but the
wave was probably over 100 feet tall. Some estimates suggest it might have been as tall as 120 feet. A wall of water 100 feet tall, moving at hurricane speeds toward populated areas. The wave hit the coasts of Java and Sumatra. Cities were destroyed. Villages were completely wiped out. People were swept miles inland by
the force of the water. When the water receded, it took people back out to sea with it. Entire populations were erased. 36,000 people were killed by the tsunami. Some estimates suggest the number might be higher. The exact death toll is not known because records weren't kept carefully in the Dutch East Indies at that time. The destruction
was complete. Coastal cities that had existed for centuries were destroyed in minutes. The port of Merak on Java was obliterated. The city of Anjer was completely destroyed. Not a single building was left standing. When rescue workers arrived days later, they found nothing but devastation. Bodies were found miles inland, washed up by the tsunami. The eruption also had global effects. The dust and ash from the explosion entered the atmosphere and spread around the entire Earth. Within days, the ash had reached Africa. Within weeks, it had reached every continent. The ash was so thick in the atmosphere that it darkened the sun. In Java, in the middle of the day, it became so dark that streetlights came
On at noon, the sun appeared reddish because of the ash in the atmosphere. The ash in the atmosphere had a cooling effect on the global climate. The average temperature of the Earth dropped by about 1 degree Celsius. It might not sound like much, but it was enough to affect crops around the world. Harvests failed in some parts
of the world. Food prices increased. There were food shortages in some regions. The eruption of Krakatoa affected the entire world economically and climatically. The scientific world was fascinated by the Krakatoa eruption. It was the first truly global event. News traveled around the world in days using telegraph cables. Scientists around the world received reports of the eruption at almost the same time. The barometric pressure wave traveled around the Earth in measurable time. Scientists could calculate the speed of sound based on how long it took for the pressure wave to reach different parts of the world. The Krakatoa eruption was the loudest explosion in human history. It was the most powerful explosion until the development of nuclear weapons. The explosion released energy equivalent to about 200 Hiroshima atomic bombs. It was an unimaginable release of energy. When nuclear weapons were tested decades later, they still couldn't match the Krakatoa explosion in terms of pure sound output. The island of Krakatoa still exists today. A new volcanic cone has grown out of the caldera, and it's been named Anak Krakatau, which means child of Krakatau. This new cone occasionally has minor eruptions, but nothing close to the 1883 eruption. Scientists monitor it carefully because they know what it's capable of. The Krakatoa eruption reminds us of the raw power of nature. It reminds us that the Earth is not stable. It reminds us that beneath the surface of the planet, there are forces that are beyond human control and beyond human comprehension. The eruption killed 36,000 people. It affected the entire world's climate. It created the loudest sound ever made. And all of this happened because of geological forces that humans could not control or predict.